we have solved so many problems by broadening the view of the problem, by bringing the entire engineering team to the table. And sometimes you bring folks outside of the engineering team, and you'd be amazed just the kind of blue sky type thinking. So let's drill down on that, Gene. Blue sky thinking. That's where it's like in our meetings, okay, back in the early days of Ember, we'd get 40 engineers around a table. And I would always say, no idea is a bad idea. If you have even an inkling of a thought, just throw it into the room. And even if that idea may or may not work, what it does is it triggers other ideas from other humans that have different discipline backgrounds and that might go, oh, that's interesting. If I combine his or her thought with this idea, it can form together and create something that will solve the problem.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about innovation, specifically nurturing innovation in your employees. When you're leading innovation, you've got to do things a little bit differently than just selling a widget or manufacturing something or doing a service, because innovation requires collaboration, requires a lot of bad ideas to find the good ones. Our special guest today is the founder and CEO of Ember. They have separate companies with their life sciences. They have Ember consumer products. They're incredible at innovating products. And to show you how incredible they are, not only have they been on the Inc. list 3 times in a row, but they've also been named by Time magazine to be the 100 top most influential companies out there. And so it really is something to marvel in their ability to innovate. And so today we talk with Clay about how does he hire people that are willing to innovate? How do you lead people that are innovating? So what are some of the things that get in the way and some of the nuance behind this? And he shares all of it with you today. My name is Gene Hammett. I am an executive coach. We do leadership development for fast growth companies, and we really pride ourselves in helping you create leadership across all levels of the company. Leadership has a ripple effect. It's not just the CEOs or the executive teams that need to be great leaders. You want leaders at all levels in the company, and we actually do this, and that creates predictable growth. We typically work with fast growth companies like the Inc. 5000. Some of our clients are bigger than that, but we really do pride ourselves in serving companies. So if that's curious to you, if you think that's a fit for you, you'd like to solve some of those problems, then we actually can do that for you just by having a conversation and getting to know each other. And so you can reach me at gene@genehammett.com. If you want to kind of dip your toe into the water and just kind of see what's going on in our world, we have a unique experience that I want to invite you to. It's called a virtual conversation. Each month, we create a new topic. We invite the guests that have been on the show before. We invite our clients. We invite prospects like yourself that are interested in leading at a higher level. And so if the topic resonates with you, then you should check it out and sign up. Just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. When you do that, you will be on the list and we'll be able to notify you next time we have something. And you'll also get a world-class summary, and you'll be able to have a conversation about whatever that topic is with your peers of fast growth companies. So if that's something that you're curious about, just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversation. Now here's the interview with Clay. Clay, how are you?
I am fantastic. How are you, Gene?
I am absolutely phenomenal. I'm really excited to talk about nurturing innovation within our teams and our companies. Before we get there, tell us a little bit about your company, Ember.
Ember is a temperature control brand. We have a whole suite of products, from the world's first temperature controlled coffee mug to the world's first self-warming baby bottle, which we launched last year. And then more recently, we've gotten into the healthcare category. We spun out a division called Ember Life Sciences, And we've invented the world's first self-refrigerated cloud-based shipping box. And we're actually starting to transport some of the world's life-saving medicines and vaccines, as well as blood samples. We just won the contract for the Olympic trials, so we've been shipping all of the blood samples from the athletes for the Olympics here in the United States using our technology. So essentially it's cold chain technology, but with our cold chain technology, we're actually able to reduce carbon emissions by 92% compared to the current industry standard, which is cardboard, styrofoam, and ice packs.
I'm loving this. And I also know that we've got to highlight, because I could talk about your company all day long, but you've been recently named to the Time Magazine 100 most influential companies in the world.
Yes.
When you heard that the very first moment, what was the feeling you had?
I was literally pinching myself and I'm like, there's no way this has got to be a dream. How could this thing that I built out of an idea in my mind have turned into one of the 100 most influential companies in the world? So there's a lot of self-reflection that you do when you first learn about something like that. And really, you know, the Time editors, when they go and sweep all the companies around the world for this award, they're looking for companies that are really innovating, that are taking industries and not just making the thing that we do at Ember. We don't just take a product that already exists and make it a notch better. That is not what Ember does. What Ember does is we look at an industry or a problem and we try to look 5 to 10 years out in the future, and we create a solution which leapfrogs what is currently out there. That's our kind of secret sauce, is just being able to look out. And honestly, if you think about the product development timeline of any new innovation, it takes years to go from a napkin sketch to something that's commercial. So I always advise that leaders are looking 5+ years out, because if you're looking that far out, by the time you drop it in the market, you'll get first mover advantage. You've got all the patent filing rights and all that good stuff as well.
You know, my first thought, if I had gotten that email, because I don't know if it was an email or anything like that, but I would have thought it was a pay to play. I'm sure you get the pay to play emails, but we're not talking about a pay to play Time Magazine thing. This is a, you know, bona fide, because your company innovates and created so many products, you've gotten this thing. What did your team feel about this award?
Everyone was very, very proud. We actually made a big sign and we put it up in our office recently, the big Time 100 sign. You know, Time, you know, they look at the whole kind of portfolio of what we've done. You know, we started in coffee and tea and we improved the coffee drinking experience, right? With an Ember mug, you can actually set your own drinking temperature, and the mug is digital and it will keep your coffee or your tea at, call it 135 degrees or whatever you prefer. And so we've really made a big impact there. Now Ember, if you think about our growth from the time we launched with Starbucks in 2016 to now, we're now in 27 countries around the world. We're in over 5,000 retail locations, and we've been named by Inc. magazine as one of the fastest growing companies in America for the last 3 years in a row. So without sharing our revenue numbers, I mean, we're selling roughly a little more than 1 million Ember mugs a year. So you can start to kind of do the math on that.
That's impressive all the way around. And it's not just you. Like, it takes a team to innovate. I'm sure that you've got your hands in the mix there, but you're nurturing innovation across a team. And where do we want to start with this conversation about nurturing innovation?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're very, very proud of at Ember is our ability to think outside the box. You know, a little on my background. So I went to art school. So oftentimes I'll interview with journalists and you know, and I'll tell them about the light bulb that I invented that I sold to General Electric in 2009, or some of my other inventions or things. And they'll ask me, oh, did you go to MIT or did you go to engineering school? Well, actually, no, I went to Walt Disney's school that he founded called California Institute of the Arts. And it's an art school. And we would sit in the classroom and discuss, how does the color red make you feel emotionally, right? And so it's a hardcore liberal art school. And so what I've done is I've taken that kind of background and the way I was kind of brought up and educated, And then you combine that with the left side of your brain, which is the engineering side. And if you can do both, it allows you to then think really broad and big and outside of the box. And sometimes you might look at a problem and go, gosh, I need a mechanical solution to solve this problem. Well, one of the things that we do at Ember, which we started many, many years ago, probably about a decade ago, is we list out all of the engineering challenges that we're having on a given product or a suite of products on a whiteboard. And what we do is every 2 weeks, we get all of the engineers together. Okay, I'm talking about thermal science engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, software engineers, firmware engineers, the whole suite of engineering. And you get them all in a room together. And what I've discovered over time, which is just amazing, is sometimes when you look at a problem and you think, oh, I've got to, fix this mechanical thing, someone on the software team might raise their hand and go, I can actually fix this by writing some code that detects when the thing is open, and then I can do something in the software to turn on a motor and do this. My point is, we have solved so many problems by broadening the view of the problem, by bringing the entire engineering team to the table. And sometimes you bring folks outside of the engineering team, and you'd be amazed just the kind of blue sky type thinking. So let's drill down on that, Gene. Blue sky thinking. That's where it's like in our meetings, okay, back in the early days of Ember, we'd get 40 engineers around a table. And I would always say, no idea is a bad idea. If you have even an inkling of a thought, just throw it into the room. And even if that idea may or may not work, what it does is it triggers other ideas from other humans that have different discipline backgrounds, and that might go, oh, that's interesting. If I combine his or her thought with this idea, it can form together and create something that will solve the problem. So, I can go on and on about this, but I'm just riffing here with you a little bit.
We've been talking about innovation with Clay here, and I wanted to share with you, a lot of my clients want more innovation, but what I'll hear most often is they want more strategic thinking. Now, I don't think anything's different, but one of the things that you need to do to encourage your people to think more strategically is to not solve their problems for them, but empower them to think about the strategies, to pick their head up, to get a little taste of looking further down the road, because they may be looking at today's work or this week's work or this month's work in these projects. Getting them to think a year in advance, getting them to take the vision a little bit further, and maybe having conversations around what strategy is, and pulling out of them and the ability to be strategic. Now, can you teach people strategy? I think you can. I grew up as a strategy consultant, so I was taught straight out of school. That was 30 something years ago. But all that being said, if you want your people to be more innovative, then talk about innovation. If you want them to be more strategic, talk about strategy with them, and so that you are really guiding them to where you want them to be. Back to Clay. I love the fact that you are not saying that you're a really smart person, you had some good ideas. You've pulled together, and I know it probably started that way with a light bulb, but you have pulled a team together and you're really empowering them and getting them to think about innovation. And I'm sure that's one reason why they love being there, because I know what it feels like to create products. And it's such a proud part of the work is to create a product. And you guys now creating lots of products and being recognized. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, we've been winning all kinds of, we just won Fast Company's World Changing Ideas Award. We were the winner of the healthcare category. It's just like these huge honors. And it helps too, because it motivates your team when you get this type of recognition, or even better, when you land a contract. We're currently contracting with some of the largest companies in the healthcare space right now. On the consumer side, we're contracting with all kinds of companies. I can't say too much about it, but let's just say we're moving beyond drinkware and infant feeding, and we're taking our cooling technology, which was originally invented for the healthcare industry, and we're putting it into consumer applications, whether it's automotive or taking your lunch to work or your beverages. So we're working on some really, really cool stuff there as well. And people get excited. The thing about the way we innovate here is that we love to share the overarching vision and the plan and where are we going to. And that really motivates people. I feel like if you put people in a vacuum and you say, hey, go work on this thing, or improve the lid hinge because it's having some tears. Well, actually, it's much better if you can explain, hey, we ran a pilot with one of the nation's largest specialty pharmacies, and one out of every 50 of the lids had a shear in the plastic hinge, and it was causing some disruption, and we got some negative reviews. If you say it like that to an engineer, they're going to go, oh man, I got to go fix this. There's a lot of important reasons why I'm doing this, rather than just like instructions.
I want to break it down a little bit, Clay. We're talking about nurturing your people to be innovative thinkers and doers. It's got to start in the beginning. Like, you're hiring people that are innovators. Is there a way for you to tune in to someone's capacity to innovate?
I'm so glad you asked. So to get a job at Ember, and especially in engineering and product development, you have to go through something like around 10 interviews. And you also have to come out to dinner with us, and we like to see you in a social setting. And we do all these layers before we kind of say, okay, this person is going to fit our culture, has the right skills and the right personality. But one of the big things we do in the interview process is, and by the way, like it's if you're interviewing at Ember, it can be a bit intimidating because you go into a room with our engineers who are all ex-Apple, ex-Nokia, Motorola. I mean, these are some big time engineers. And they basically will ask you as an applicant to solve a problem in real time. And you've got the whiteboard to work with. And I remember when we were interviewing a PhD thermal scientist a couple of years ago, and we interviewed so many of them, and a lot of them just didn't make it through on the culture side. This one gentleman, perfect culture fit. And we were like, okay, let's see if he can pass the skill set test. And we asked him to solve a problem that actually took us almost 2 months to solve. And he went up there, if you've seen the movie Rain Man, right? He went up there and just starts doing trigonometry, okay, all over the whiteboards. He fills up 2 8-foot-long whiteboards, 2 of them, with math, okay? And gets to the very end, and he goes, this is the answer. And it was like a certain amount of kelvins in versus thermal energy. And it blew my engineers' minds because they needed to run physical experiments in the lab to get to that answer. And it took many, many prototypes, etc. And this gentleman comes in and just does hardcore PhD math on the board and answers the question. Long story short, we ended up hiring him. But yeah, so it's very difficult to get a job here, and you have to actually prove that you're able to problem solve on the fly. And you could imagine, Gene, it's even harder when a bunch of people are looking at you in a room,
Clay's been talking about how does he, find the people and how do they interview them, and they give them tests. I don't know if this is a surprise to you, but every time I've talked to CEOs about how they're hiring and how do they really find the right people, they hesitate a little bit to push them too hard. And I would say that you need to take this to the other extreme. Make it remarkably hard to get hired at your company. Everyone knows that Google asks crazy off the wall questions, and probably you can find them if you ever Google interview questions. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean? But you can actually create tests no matter what the role is. If you're a developer, you're going to have programming tests. If you're a salesperson, you can have specific skills demonstration tests. If you're a financial person, you're going to look at financials, and you can create these tests out of real world issues that are going in your business. It can be something in the past. It could be something that you're currently working on. But my hope that you take this is and really put people through the gauntlet of hiring so that you're ensured that you have the right people. The harder it is for them to prove to you that they're the right person, the more likely they are to stick with you and be the right person long term. It's okay if 95% of the people you talk to aren't a fit, because you're only looking to hire 1 or 2 or 3 key people, and a wrong hire costs you dearly. You know that, And I'm just reminding you that the test that he's been talking about, Clay is is something that they use to help them determine who is the best hire. I'm just encouraging you to do the same thing for your company. Back to Clay. I love the fact that you went to the detail there. And I want to ask you another question because I feel like innovators have strong personalities. They have a high dose of confidence in themselves because they know that they're smart and they have ideas, they have a point of view.
Yes.
What have you learned about leading innovators?
A lot of different thoughts kind of run through my mind. The main thing that I would say, and I can only hope that our people would say this, is that I'm a listener. So if we're sitting in a room and we're trying to solve a problem, or maybe there's another way to do something, we really, really do encourage people to speak up and give their ideas and put them out there. And I would say to your point, most of our engineers do have strong personalities and they do have their thoughts on how something might work or should work. And I feel like in our culture, you're allowed to just speak it, say it, put it out there. Let's throw it up on the board. It may not be the right answer and it may not be the way we ultimately end up going, but I feel like just giving everyone a voice is the really, really important. If you don't give people a voice, I'm sorry, but like your employee turnover is going to be about 18 to 24 months.
I've given a lot of speeches over the years, and one of the elements in there I remember that I love talking about is your business shouldn't run on your ideas as a founder CEO. It really should be the best ideas win.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big mindset shift for a lot of founders as they grow. And obviously
Yeah.
you've made that as you've empowered these other engineers and other aspects of people that lead the company. I really appreciate you sharing this with us. One last question as we wrap up today. You've probably been through some inflection points in your own style or principles of leadership. Is there anything that you feel like could help us understand how you've grown over the years?
Yeah, I would say that as a founder of multiple businesses, my first business I started when I was 22 called Radiance Lightworks, and it's now 25 years old. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary. I have gone through a lot of trials and tribulations. I have road scars, wounds. Some of them I still lick, I mean, from the outside, you might look and say, wow, look at this guy, Clay. He's got all these companies and everything he touches seems to, do this or do that or be successful. And the reality is the amount of torment that I've been through and that my family, thank God that they're so supportive. My wife is so supportive and she's gone through every single one of these battles with me and just right there by my side the whole time. We actually met way back in high school, so there's a lot of history there. But I would say, Gene, when I used to get punched and knocked down, I used to get kind of grumpy about it. And why is this happening to me? And right, and look at it kind of as a negative, right? Going through something challenging. Now, what I do is I have actually rewired my mind. And anytime anything negative comes in, or we get a blow, or a retailer backs out on an order, or I could just give you a number of things. Now, actually, I look at it as, oh, cool. What can I learn from this? Right? So every single time I get punched in the face now as an entrepreneur, I actually go, thank you. I'm going to learn from something from this. And not only do I do that, I actually try to take the time after the fact to reflect on it, what I went through. Last year was a really tough year for us and on a number of levels. And there were some different things that I lived through. And I've spent months, in the shower, thinking, reflecting on all the different things that I could have done differently leading up to that year, et cetera. And so my big point here is learning from what you go through. And actually, it's hard to do, but look at it as a positive.
What you're talking about is something that comes up quite often in my coaching. and I'll share with you. And I got it from Jim Carrey. You know who that is, the actor?
Oh, he's literally one of my favorite actors.
He gave a commencement speech years ago, and he said these words. I'm going to paraphrase it a little bit, but he's like, I don't know if it's true, but I have decided it is for me, that life happens for me, not to me.
Perfect.
And what you're describing is literally taking the energy from, getting knocked down to saying, thank you, or what do I need to learn from this? And that
Yes.
shift, it may sound like a small thing, but if everything in your life is looked at for you and you're not a victim to the world,
Yes.
it's a very different experience. You're
Yes.
more joyful. You're able to embrace and learn when you really need to, because every one of us has been through obstacles. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Clay. Thanks for being on the show. It really is a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Gene. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Well, this is the wrap up to today's interview with Clay, talking about nurturing innovation and how do you hire and lead people who are innovators. So hopefully you've gotten some insight around that for your business. I just want to remind you, we've got a book that just came out recently, How to Have Tough Conversations. If you haven't already bought it, go ahead and do that. It's one of the areas where if you've got big personalities like engineers that think that they're right, you're going to have some tough conversations every once in a while. And so we created the book for it. So if you like that, go for it. If there's anything else we can do to help you grow your business, help you lead more powerfully, help you create the kind of business that you don't want to sell, you don't want to even retire from, because it runs and it fuels you, make sure you keep us in mind. And when you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.